clarify it for yourself. That's, I think, the biggest thing that I work with business owners and their leadership team to do is really clarify what it is that you want, and the how will start revealing itself.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. My guest today is Eva Safar, founder of Safar Transformations and president of TAB Denver North, where she coaches growth stage founders and CEOs. Eva grew up in a family business, which gave her an early view into the realities of ownership, leadership, and growth. She then spent 25 years leading teams and driving growth for Fortune 500 companies across the food, manufacturing, and commerce industries. Today, she brings that experience back to the owners and leaders walking that same path, helping them build stronger businesses with greater clarity and confidence. Eva, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is great to have you on the show. We like to tie a whole bunch of themes together sometimes on the show, and I always say at the end, I have a few tricks up my sleeve with some of my guests because it's not just CX and customer experience; it's people actually putting this stuff into practice that might not be a CX practitioner. So I think you have a very interesting story to share, and it's going to be very helpful for the audience. So let's actually do a little background because I think some folks might not be as familiar with TAB as others, the alternative board. So why don't you tell us a little bit what that is and what your business looks like, across all of these things that you do, the peer advisory boards, the one-on-one coaching, and the leadership transformations.
You bet. So the alternative board is exactly that. It's an alternative to having a board of directors. When you're an independent business owner under $50 million, you probably don't have a paid board of directors to support and guide the CEO. So we bring business owners together in smaller groups, no more than 10 people or so, to be in a peer advisory role. So think of it kind of like a mastermind group where everybody brings up a topic or a challenge and they learn from one another. Um, I also do one-on-one executive coaching. Like you said, 25 years in the corporate world. I may have learned a couple of tricks here and there as well that help with people leadership and self-leadership. And then the transformations. This is when we're working inside of the company, creating kind of a board inside of the organization and clarifying everything with the owners.
That's such an interesting model, and we've had a couple of guests talk about similar things. But I think you and your your company and the tab really kind of has perfected it in a sense. Because I've talked to a number of people that have done this, and it sounds like a great model that there's a lot of benefit not only for the peer groups, but then you have the additional support for these leaders to train them and coach them.
100%. Everybody has a blueprint of sorts. We have what we call Business Builder Blueprint, or Blueprint for short, but it's essentially all of the gosh, Gary, it's all of the frameworks of what I've used in leading multi-billion dollar organizations and multi-million dollar brands, but just really taking the frameworks and simplifying it. It's not easy to
Mm.
fill out or do, but it's simple so that anybody in business can take those and use the frameworks to help guide their thoughts and their goals.
Yeah, it is. It's super interesting. So let's kind of get into the substance of it. So you spent 25 years inside these big companies. So when you sit across from a small business owner today, what do you think is the single biggest gap you've seen between how the corporate world thinks about running a business and how most founders actually run theirs?
Great question. I would say in the corporate world, we run business based on structure and how things are done. In the small business world, we run things based on effort.
Hmm. Interesting. So I think that's interesting. A lot of founders probably confuse being busy with being strategic and useful. So how do you help them identify where they actually need to add value and kind of let go of some stuff, maybe?
hmm everything begins with tell me where you want to go.
Mm,
If you know where you want to go, I can help you get there and I can help you see where you might be making some decisions to it's not to lollygag or to waste time, but you may not even realize it, but you're spending time in things that don't really get you to where you want to go. So the clearer you can decide on where you want to go, we can build the path to get you there and identify what is and isn't a priority. I have an analogy for that as well.
go ahead.
Oh,
Good.
so I don't know if you can see it, but on my logo, I have a little bicycle picture on there. We talk a lot at Tab in that you're the rider of the bicycle. The front tire of that bicycle is your personal vision. Where are you going in life? And what does success mean like to you
Mm.
as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as however you want to look at your life? And that is the purpose and the reason why you're going at the thing that we're doing. The back tire that gives you fuel, that's your business. That's the one that whether you are creating a brand or you're creating a company, that's what fuels your personal vision. So when those two are aligned, you're going to get to where you want to go. But you need to have the vision, you need to have the drive, you get to direct it. And when they're aligned, you're in a much more enjoyable ride to getting to where you want.
That's an interesting analogy. I've never heard that one. That's
There's a few. I have a couple others, but the bicycle is just so easy.
it is.
Personal. Yeah.
Yeah, that is simple. That is a great one. So let's talk about how they get there. Um, w- what do they hold on to longer than they should, right? Because I just feel like a lot of the conversations I've had and I've had with you is they're just kind of holding on to something the old ways. They don't want to let go for a number of reasons, and I think that's what you're helping them figure out and get to, right?
I yeah, for sure, a big part of that. So the big buzzwords these days in health and wellness is limiting beliefs, right? And
Mm,
limiting beliefs, I don't know if you've heard this, Gary, but it's
mm.
really a thing that a lot of people they hit a ceiling of what they think they can do or what they can achieve, or they put thoughts around their business and around their team that limits the growth that the team or themselves can have. So let's see what we can do to strip away some of that. Like I said, tell me where you want to go and now let's carve the path on getting there. I always say begin with a vision. Tell me where you want to go. Don't worry about the how. Just tell me the what. What
Mm.
is it that you want? What is it that you think your business or your life or your team can get to? We'll get to the how to do it momentarily, but it's the what. And I can't tell you how many people have a hard time with identifying that. I did.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that that's interesting because I bet a lot of people don't. They're just kind of sailing along without that. Is hey, I'm running a business, I'm starting a business, and they don't really ever sit back and think of that vision and that strategy, and how to get there comes a little bit later. I think they're just off and rolling, right? And I'll worry about that later.
Boy, did you just say that? You said so much right there, Gary. So, without a vision of clearly knowing where you want to go, all you're doing is working. You're just
Yep,
working. You're
yep.
just working. And you use the word think. A lot of times when in any of us, and I tend to work with the business owners, but any one of us, if we slow down, just slow down for a second to think and clarify and write it down, type it up to yourself or write it down in a book, clarify it for yourself. That's, I think, the biggest thing that I work with business owners and their leadership team to do is really clarify what it is that you want and the how will start revealing itself.
Interesting. So once you do that, we do have to get to the how, right?
Absolutely.
And most, and so I'll just say I'm just trying to draw the parallel to the world of customer experience and employee experience, which I think you really do focus on. Um, but most businesses will say, sure, I want happy customers and engaged employees and a thriving business, but they don't really know how to get there, nor do they do that strategically, right? Because we've talked a lot about on the show about how customer experience, customer success has to be strategic and it has to be embedded in what you do in order to really be a client-centric organization. So, talk us through a little bit how you bring that vision to life in the vein of customer experience and employee experience.
Yeah. So, you mentioned they want happy customers, and it more or less sounds like, why can't they just figure out what we need to do when they're talking about employees or when,
Right.
and really, listen, when you're going, it's just you and maybe one other person, you can have a quick, easy conversation and get to wherever it is that you're going. If it's two, three people, it's probably easy to do. But when you're trying to move an entire organization or even a team of 10 or 12 people, you need to start being very clear with where it is that you're going. Clarify the vision, which is where we going. It's like being in a car and looking out the windshield. You have to have clear windshield in order to be able to drive, right? You
Mhm.
have to know that your car's full of gas and that your stuff are packed so that you can get to where you're going. Very similar to when business owners don't have a clear vision of where they would like the business to go, the how and how we treat one another to get there, whether it is our values or our performance indicators, and the goals that we are looking to achieve and how we hold one another accountable. When you put all that together and the team is operating within the proper values, holding one another accountable, guess what? That is the culture. That is
Mhm.
the employee experience. And that's why people want to join you because you say you're going to do a thing, you do it well, and you actually achieve the results. They want to be a part of that. And guess what? Happy employees, automatically happy customers, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going to do whatever it takes to make sure that your clients, your customers are going to have the client experience that you probably want, but you've probably never even written down or focused on as a strategy.
Right, and that's what I think is interesting because you work with these small businesses, and I've said this before and to the dismay of some, not everybody knows what the heck CX is, and especially small business owners, and we live in a world of these wonderful podcasts, and I'm happy to do this, and there's some wonderful CX podcasts out there, but I think the CX world, it is a very collaborative, group of folks out there. They assume everybody knows what that is. And to be honest with you, I don't think as many people know what that is as they think, as a discipline, as a strategy. Like I said, everybody know, oh, you got to make your customers happy. But I think a lot of us in this industry think, oh, everybody knows what it is. Most small business owners do not, and there's a disconnect, right? In the small business world.
Yes, and when we say small business, Gary, I know the SBA probably
Yeah.
defines small business as under 50 million. Typically, the owners I'm working with are anywhere from 5 to 25 million, so they're still in the small business. I'm not talking about the nail shop on the corner or the restaurant. I'm
Mm.
talking about, 5, 6, $10 million organizations. Well, they've also started by what got them there is getting in the business, doing the work, making sure that they're in 10 different places. Drilling into the CX of the whole experience is just something that they don't have the bandwidth to drill into that level because they're broad across so many different hats that they're still wearing. So one of the first things they have to let go of is all the hats.
Oh,
Be very strategic about where is it that you as the founder or the business owner make the most impact in your business and focus your time and your effort there because I guarantee you one of the places that you make the most impact is in being the founder that motivates people with your words.
hmm
So you cannot be in a high stress environment putting out fires. That's not your job and that's not the most effective for you.
yeah.
Set the vision, set the strategy, set at that level, and then let the people do what they need to do.
And right. So the strategy needs to be a little bit more customer focused than I think they believe, even though they say they believe. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about how you get there. When an owner reaches out, what tells you what they need? The peer group, the board, the coaching, the deeper transformation work, probably all of the above sometimes.
Certainly, right? But I think what makes sense is what is imminent and right now for the business owner. So if
hmm
they are looking for more ideas or just other really smart people to sort of bounce ideas off of or thoughts, then they probably need a peer advisory board.
hmm
If they're looking for sort of a little bit of step by step directions that might feel a little more tactical, but is still strategic in nature, they may benefit most from one on one coaching to just sort of put themselves align what's in their mind and what they're saying and doing might benefit most from coaching. And when it's, the entire team and the leadership transformation, I'll give you an example. I had a business owner that say to me, "Either I need to fire my entire team, and they've been with them for 10 plus years, or I need to fire myself as the owner because I don't understand why we're not getting along or what is going on. How are we not
mm
achieving the results? It was so much easier when there was 3 of us." Yeah, because we were all in the work.
Right.
And so it just depends on what their immediate needs are, what the owner's frustration is.
Mm.
of what they actually need. So when it is about the leadership team, then it might be more around clarifying as a group some of the same things that we do in Blueprint.
That's an interesting one, though. The team. So, was there a dynamic there with? Was it something they were doing, or he was doing, or she was doing as the leader that led them to kind of have this employee lack of engagement, shall we say, or energy going on?
I will tell you the employees were very engaged. The employees want to do a great job. And when we talk employees, we're really talking kind of the senior people that have been around them
Yeah.
for 10 years. And this is just one example, but I'll tell you 5 or 6 of these are very similar.
Mm,
It's when there's a lot in listen, when you wanna go do something and you have the day for yourself, you can choose and change your mind a million times, no one knows the difference. But
mm,
when you have a team, you
mm,
can't tell Bob and Billy to go left, and then you 2 days later, you change your mind and you tell Joanne and Christy to go right, and it happens all the time
oh yeah.
because we're not holding ourselves accountable because we're in the firefighting mode. We're just, going, "Hey," and you know what? When employees don't have clear direction, they come to you for every decision to be made, and they
Mm-hmm.
put the monkey on you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fair and it's not right, but I go back to the business owner. Have you clarified what you will and will not do? Have you clarified what their roles and expectations are? Well, let's go back to the very beginning. Let's align on how we're going to communicate. Let's create a clear vision of, okay, you do this and I do that. And this is where we're going. So everyone knows their parts and pieces. And we figure out where are we now. We plan for the future and we start executing on it. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do have a roadmap, but usually it starts with they're frustrated about a thing. Well, let's go back.
I love it. So I've I've brought this up a couple of times, and I think my audience might think I'm losing it, but I keep going back. I'm coaching 9-year-old baseball, and it's the same thing because I'm running the team, and they're 9. They don't know how to. This is the first time they play a real game of baseball, and they don't know simple things like how to warm up in between innings. And
Mm.
my assistant coaches are wonderful, but it's the first time they've been coaching at this level where you're playing a real game. There's a certain way the fields are prepped. There's a certain way the set up. You practice. You get the field first. You get the batting. And there's so many things. There's pitching innings limits and everything like that. The same thing. I go out there and I'm bombarded with questions for 2 hours straight between my coaches, even my older son's helping coach. Dad, what do I do? Where's the batting tee? And it never ends because they don't know yet. They don't have the clear instructions. They don't know how to do it. So it just keeps coming back to me. And it's a constant barrage of 2 hours of questions at me. I'm trying to run the thing, but it's the same kind of thing. It's actually pretty funny. I was thinking of that as you were saying it. So,
As a
yeah.
coach, Gary, I'm gonna ask you, what could you do better as a coach to
Uh oh.
eliminate the firefighting coming at you, and so that the leaders could then do what they need or what you
That's that's what I've started to do. I prep the lineups before the game. I have a board, so I've got a magnet board with their positions in the batting order, and I had a coaching session with my assistant coaches. Here's how it works: when you're the home team, you get the batting cage first, da 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 da, and you got to prep the field. You got to put the lines down. Here's how you put the lines down. All this stuff, and I kind of went through it all to get them acclimated to all this stuff, which was pretty funny because they're like, "Why are you worried about 9-year-old baseball so much?" I said, "Because there's so much to do, and you don't realize it." Now it's dawned on them, like, "Oh my god, this is a lot to think about." Because you're trying to put on a real game. You can't go out there and pitch for them anymore, and you've got to get 3 outs, and it's craziness. So yeah, I've been prepping them. It's been fun though. They're doing great. All right. Speaking of doing great, you talked about an example. So let's bring this to life with an actual success story. You shared with me a success story about a manufacturing client breaking through the $5 million barrier. Can you tell me a little bit about them
Yeah,
and that story?
actually, that's the client that I was kind of, explaining with, what's going on with the team.
Oh,
Well,
yep.
we, turns out we were not clearly aligned on the vision. They didn't
Mm.
have that magnet board that you just talked about of here's how you do, here's what frankly, the work that you're doing with 9-year-olds now
Mm.
are our future business leaders. They are our
Hmm.
future leaders in everything. So it's great to learn some of that discipline and communication. The very first step I work with everybody is aligning on communication. How are we going to speak to each other? What is it that we're looking for? But where we were maybe misaligned is our positioning of the business. How do we go out and create the value proposition for it so that we're achieving what it is that we're setting out to do with the right clients, delivering on the right product. So a lot of that prep work that, the team wants to do a great job. They want to do a great job. They're very much aligned, but we had not written it down. We had not had a way to sit and talk as a leadership group, similar to how you said, I bring the coaches together and we say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Now go play with the 9-year-olds.
Hmm.
We did not have that at that level. We just assumed that everybody knows because, you've been with me every day, but we're not mind readers. And so we need to have those clarified and have an opportunity to ask questions and understand so that it sticks. And then we know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. Because yeah, when I started coaching, I didn't have the prep and I didn't put the lines on the field. I didn't know what I was doing. Interesting. So you talked about the $5 million mark before though. Is you feel like that's where things do start to break? I thought that was interesting that there was a constant there. So why is that kind of a breaking point, do you think?
Excellent question. So at the $1 million mark, you've learned to hustle and you've learned to work, and you're like, okay, I got to 1 million. At the 3 million mark, you've now added a couple people and you've got a good system. At 5, it's really a test of your systems, a
Hmm.
test of your people, a test of it all. And it's not going to jump to the next increment with just doing more hustle and more hiring more people. You have to really start to think about, are the systems in place to enhance what we do, or is it a band aid for our stuff that isn't working? And so, really, it's a refinement of the systems at that point.
So that's kind of a constant where it's just getting to a scale where you need to add everything a little bit. People, system, and then it goes back to what we just said, being coordinated and strategic about how you roll that out because you can't just do it yourself anymore.
Correct. It needs to be systemized so that when one person steps out, another one can step right in. Things are flowing a whole lot better. You're creating a well-oiled machine in your business because, of course, at the end of day, every business owner may say, this business is my baby, but this business is an entity living outside of you. You create it.
Mm.
You give it the structure and the everything that it has to create value of it outside of you so that your employees are delivering the employee experience of living in it, but they're also thinking like you of making sure that everything that they're doing is for the best of the industry that you're in or the product lines or the brand, et cetera. So it's very critical that you have systems in place for people to think and be empowered to do those things.
So is this where the board comes in? Do you find a lot of people are kind of at that spot that are in the boards? They have
In
boards.
In the boards, yeah, for certain, they're oftentimes looking at, hey, I'm looking to expand or grow into another facility, and they're thinking through how they're going to do that. But really, a business owner is off on their own, making all their own decisions. They don't necessarily know the implications of their decisions because they may not have done it themselves. But you know what? If you sit in a room with 10 others, chances are one or two have either done that
Mm.
or they know a guy and
They
they
know.
can help you. They can help you make that decision better and faster and not have to make the mistakes. And oftentimes we know mistakes are expensive because it's all relying on you, but you're also doing so many other things.
So yeah, I think that's why it's such an interesting concept and model, and the kind of collaboration. And they're not competitors necessarily, right? They're people who you kind of think through that, right, and you make it so they complement each other. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The fact of the matter is the way business is run 75% of the time is exactly the same from job to job, industry
Mm.
to industry. It's the 25% of you do what you do, whether you're a dentist or an attorney or concrete guy or whatever. That's your business. You know how to do that. But the working on the business, 75% of the working on the business is what we do in those boards. So, yes, they are not competing industries um, and they're able to speak freely. This is a room where people are safe to cry, to share frustrations. I met a business owner at a really high end mastermind group that's international, and he said, "This is the room where you to go to share the IT." So, really, I
Yeah.
mean, you could only tell your spouse about it so much before they start resenting the business. You can only share with your buddies so much before they start having, and your dog and your cat, well, they've heard plenty from you, and you cannot complain to your employees or vent or get, but you can with other business owners because they're there to have your back. They've been there and they know the walk that you're on, and they know how some days can be quite dark.
Mm.
If you're needing an idea, they'll share an idea, but if you need a swift kick in the pants, they'll be happy to do that because again, they're doing the same thing. And these are groups that get to know one another after, years of attending boards together every month.
Yeah, no, that's really so interesting. I bet it even just the vent, I think. I'm thinking of this and you're just kind of like, am I really thinking about this the right way? And just to get it off and have a bunch of people say, "Yeah, you're fine." Right?
Or to tell you the opposite.
Well,
It's
yeah, I was
just
gonna
the
say
beauty.
the huge benefit, but I think would be you're telling me the opposite, but I still think sometimes you just need to bounce something off
Yeah,
somebody, like, I'm not crazy, right? I mean, if I just do
really
this, this should work, and
done.
then you get a little bit of, support.
Absolutely, and there's incredible magic when, you're in a room with other really smart people, but what you get is a different perspective from the other side. So you
Yeah,
might think, you're only seeing it from your perspective or maybe your perspective and another one, but when you have 7, 8 people around you that share their advice from their perspective or they ask you questions from their perspective, boy, does it turn on light bulbs
mm,
and does it cause you to go inward to say, man, maybe I have not been thinking about this right. Or,
mhm,
wow, I never thought about that before. And you know what's crazy? It's not always just about you. Even the people asking you questions are sometimes asking you questions and then they stop and go, oh, that's a great question. I should answer that to myself about my
right.
business. Right. Because that when we're looking outside in at something, it's sometimes easier and clearer to get your aha moments. Those are what happens in these peer advisory boards. It's not that anybody's going to run your business better than you. That's your job.
Mhm,
But the
yeah,
different perspectives, boy, do they open and unlock certain areas in you that cause you to think and cause you to make better decisions.
yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So, alright, I gotta ask you this because it's a CX show. I bet, though, how often does CX and CX strategy come up in these sessions?
We don't even know how to spell CX.
Yeah, see? And I'll be honest, I asked you that because that's what I wanted you to answer, which is good and bad, right?
Yeah,
And I'm asking you that because, like I said, that earlier question, I feel like a lot of people don't focus on this. So there's a huge opportunity for them there to really start thinking along these lines and implement this as part of their strategy, number one. But number two, everybody assumes that everybody knows this stuff all the time because we have all these wonderful shows, like I said. But I think that's a real opportunity for some of them to think about it more strategically.
absolutely. And you know what the most beautiful thing is when the founder or business owner recognizes that unboxing experience or whatever it is, the customer experience is critical for their business. But don't take it on yourself to solve it unless you're
Mm,
a solopreneur. If you have a team, lean on the team because again, now you have perspective from multiple people on your team solving that CX situation and
mhm.
that's where it is gold.
Yeah. And you've just got to think about it holistically from start to finish, right? It's are you getting the job done? How are you getting the job done? And then what kind of um sentiment are you driving from that? Because we've talked about that on recent episodes. It's success and satisfaction and sentiment. And I get myself in trouble a lot because I always say, well, you don't have to go for the wow moment every time. You can, but you want them to at least feel like you did the job that you were promised. You did it exceptionally well. It was a good experience. Whether it's just getting, um, your teeth cleaned or something, like it was easy to schedule the appointment. Were they kind of late? Because not many people like the dentist. And then is the billing simple? And do you enjoy going there? Do you have a nice conversation with whoever? And you're off. You have clean teeth, and you're done. Um, and I think if you think about it strategically, it's not that difficult to put a simple little strategy in place to make sure you're checking all the boxes. But I think that is missed quite often, and that really kind of guides you. You say, where's your vision? I mean, maybe that's your front wheel, right, in your bike. Is are you creating that client experience soup to nuts, as I
Yep.
like to say.
Yep. It's interesting, we always use the dentist experience because really nobody likes going to the dentist, and
Right.
and we do have a dentist on the board, and one of the things that she has spoken of is for her clients, I guess, for her clients, she makes sure that she's the last person or they see before they get up out of the chair.
Mhm. Yeah.
She says, if there is a question or something that they have, I want them to have one more opportunity to ask me and know that they have my full presence before they have to leave that room. It has eliminated complaints. It has eliminated, any kind of misunderstandings by that one simple move. So, using that same example, what can we do with that one simple move? One simple move, Gary.
Mhm.
If they
Mhm.
just put a QR code in the box and said, "Tell us about your experience," or tell us, there is just one simple thing that they could use to learn and make it better and better and better every time.
Mhm. And I've used the analogy a couple times. I had a root canal for the first time a couple months ago, and they were wonderful. I mean, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be awful," and it was a nice experience, but they did great, right? But I've always said this: somebody listening out there, here's your multi-million-dollar idea. When they take the X-rays, that thing they put in your mouth is the same awful contraption they've been doing since I'm a kid. And if
Right?
I do not know why somebody has not come up with a simpler little thing to put in your mouth and they take an X-ray that's more comfortable. But there you go. So there's my dental experience idea for you.
The
All
one
right.
that jabs right into your gums, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Yep.
like metal and it's huge. And at this day and age, why do you not
Yeah,
have something that's much
exactly.
smaller and easier? And
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh. All right. So there's your idea. Anybody out there in dental land? All right. So we've got time for one more in the traditional interviews part of the show. I'll give you a closer. It's usually a little fancy one here. So let's see. For you, your closer is if a founder listening to this episode is somewhere between good enough and the next level, right? And they know something's got to change, but they're not sure where to start. What is one thing you want them to do this week?
There is no such thing as good enough. If you're sitting and you're resting, you're decaying. So you have to think about just think. Just think. Just create something in your mind. What is it that you want to do? That's what I want them to think about.
Simple. Excellent. Let's hit the segments. All right, everybody, it is time for Does It Hold Water, my favorite segment. This is when I ask our guests to be our resident expert witness for the day. I read them a quote, a piece of thought leadership, and we see if it holds water to them or not. And then it's the discussion, too, that counts afterwards. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I got a simple one for you. I think this is right up your alley. The defense says, when I hit this revenue number, then I can safely afford to hire my next person.
Not the best thing in the world. Oftentimes, listen, you're not hiring a person to just take the work off of you. You're hiring a person when you think about if I am not working at my pay grade, I can hire a person to do the lesser work so that I can bring in more revenue. So if they're going to add time in your life, because time is the only thing we can't just recreate. If they're going to take time in from your life by taking on the tasks, hire them. Go make go make more with what you've got because you can bring in more. Don't wait for the revenue to kick in.
Yeah, which right, but I'd assume a lot of people do just that, right? That's why I asked you that. That it's okay, I got to pay this person X, so I need to increase my revenue by X or X minus whatever before I can justify hiring them, right? Is that the mindset you run into?
Often. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
It-
expensive. That mindset is very expensive and they don't realize it.
and right, it's kind of like CX, right? Because you don't see the value of it until you actually do it, and then because they think it's gonna hit their margin, right?
Right?
And they're not viewing taking it to the next level, like you said, the front wheel of the bicycle. It's they're worried about the back wheel kind of thing.
Yeah, if they're strategic about what they want that person to do and what if that person is going to then displace somebody else, have the upgrade for the next person and the next person up in the line so that you can then create the value. So if I bring in somebody, pay them let's say easy numbers, 100,000 a year, can the rest of us that will get the benefit of that $100,000 a year employee go and create 500,000 of revenue because you'll have your ROI far faster than burning out your current employees or yourself.
Yeah, perfect. I thought that was an interesting one for you, and it was awesome. Let's go to chip shots. All right, everybody, it is time for Chip Shots, my shorter form questions, a little bit more personal, yet still professional in nature. And Eva, we always start with the book question. We have an unbelievable book list going. What is one book that has significantly influenced you? Oh,
Is
there it is. Classic.
a classic Covey book, absolutely everything in there. My favorite chapter is the one that taught me to seek to understand before trying to get understood. And that has served me for my entire career.
So
Heck, that
that's a classic that I've never even touched. So tell me, what is that? Tell me about that one.
so, and especially now as a coach, it's not going to be about what I want. I want to understand you. So
Hmm.
it's around the questions that I ask my clients or my prospects or my friends. I want to understand them. So it's been a life-changing, even that one chapter inside of that book, it's just no one has ever put it in those words before.
Mm,
And so it makes you more interested in the other person than interested in teaching you my perspective. So I always like to ask
mm.
questions. I've always been, you ready for this one? This one's a
Yeah.
good one.
What?
And ask whole. Ask whole.
That's even better than a mass hole. So yes. So interesting. And yes, you do ask a lot of questions because when we had our first conversation, I was asking you the questions. They were talking about being on the show. You're asking the same kind of questions. I go, who's the guest and who's the host here? Yes, you were grilling me to get to know me. So the interesting one. So yeah, that's great. That's a classic, and I've never touched it, and I don't know why. So all right, now that one's on the list. All right. So next question, the leader question for you. If you could spend the day shadowing a current real leader in any profession or industry, who would it be, and what would you hope to learn?
On the theme of asking great questions, and while we still have her on this earth, Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. Why?
Oh, I wanna know how does she do it where she gets 100% of her is involved and present with the person that she's talking to and
Mm.
interviewing with. She doesn't appear to be nervous or thinking about anything else. She's 100% present. And now that she's in her 70s and have been doing this for many,
Is
many
she
years,
70? Oh my
I
gosh.
believe so. But now it's now more than ever, I wanna know what would you have to teach me
Yeah.
that I can embody now to be better?
Yeah, and she is a magnificent interviewer for sure, and she's done so many other amazing things. But the interviewing part, like, look, for me, I'm the same thing. I really struggled when I started doing this to be present because I'm trying to think of all the questions I'm going to ask, and I
Right.
want it to be kind of flow naturally. But then I don't want to be stuck without a next question. And to me, it's actually not as easy as it looks at all. And
Absolutely.
you've seen some famous people try to do talk shows, late night talk shows, and fall, I'll say it, flat on their face because they can't do it. It's not all about them. And I think it's an interesting topic. Who else? I'm just curious. Who else do you think is a great interviewer? Because I've got a couple people in my mind. Um,
Katie Couric for the same reason. I'd love to
yeah.
ask a lot of questions of these people that meet so many grand people. How do you manage your nerves? Because certainly at one point they were very nervous meeting all these world leaders, but now is it because you've done it so many times or is there a mantra or something that you say? I think especially for anybody in a sales role, as we go into a sales call, we're always nervous.
Hmm.
But how do you get past that? So I think these people that do great interviews, they'll have great answers for us in there.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Now, I always just love to say Johnny Carson because he was not the most dynamic. He just sat there and let them be them. And these are all the big, huge stars of Hollywood. And he knew comedy. He was a comedian, but he wasn't the best comedian in the world. He was very good at being what's called the straight man, right? So Buddy Hackett would come out, or Rodney Dangerfield, or Don Rickles, and he knew how to let them go and
Yeah.
just work off them, because Rodney would come out and do his thing. Oh, the no respect. And then he'd say to him, Rodney, how's your health? Oh, my health. My doctor, Dr. Vinamoon Bots, right? And he knew his whole shtick, right?
Yeah.
And he would just let them be them.
Mhm.
So that's what I think it's all about. It's what I try to do. But, great one. So that was interesting. Cool. All right. Let's go to the failure question. Is there a particular failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson you still use today?
I don't like that F word, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I've said I don't think anything is a failure. I think everything for me has been an opportunity to learn and see where I could do better.
Mm,
Because honestly, I don't believe I've ever had a failure.
mhm,
Now I've had setbacks, I've had things I could have done better, but I don't that's a really big F word for me. For some reason, that word hits me hard.
mm. So yeah, so you learn from your lack of success, shall we say,
Yeah.
and don't treat it as a failure.
Failure is just so defeating. That it's just the
Yeah,
word semantics. The words are very powerful. And that word brings me very down. So
yeah,
I don't look at anything as a failure. It may not have hit the mark, but there's always room for how to improve it. I always look at the positive side of it. So failure just means it's done, it's dead, it's never going to happen, but there's always an opportunity to repeat it and do it better.
yeah. No, great. And we've had a couple people say something similar. Now, my what I teach my kids, it's back to the coaching. It's win or learn. I one of
Yeah.
my baseball coaches for my kids uses that, and he wanted to use that for the team, so we do. But I've had a guest from Belgium, a CX expert from Belgium, Chris Woders. He said, "Either I learn, either I win, either I learn." He says that's the way his way of saying it. I do not fail. He said the same thing. So that's an interesting one because that's been one of my more popular questions. The responses I've had for that question have been spectacular. But you're one of the only ones to say, "No, I don't think of it that way." So good for you. All right, last one. What is one question you ask a client that never fails to deliver?
Gary, if I were to see you maybe doing something or saying something that's different than what you said you wanted to be in life, do I have your permission to lovingly but directly and respectfully call you out on it, or do you prefer that I let you off the hook?
Mm, interesting. And what do most people say?
Everybody says, "Don't you dare let me off the hook."
I think they're thinking, let me off the hook, but they know
Yeah,
better to say that.
yeah. No, they know. You know, it's funny, I had, one client say to me, "Don't you dare let me off the hook. You're my coach. I'm paying you for this. I want you
Yeah.
to know where I'm going astray." And
Yeah.
you know, how many people have an accountability partner? How many people have
Mm,
somebody to hold you accountable to what you said you wanted? And it's a very difficult place to be that accountability partner, which is why I always ask the permission question, because then I know, Gary, this is going to be one of those moments. And you know, so you're bracing yourself because you told me you want me to make sure to call you out on. You could still make your decision. It's your business, it's your life. But I just want to point this out to you. And it just gives them a moment to pause before they're running away with their thoughts.
interesting. Right. Because you have to make a change. You're there for a change. And it might not be the easiest thing to do, but you got to admit where
Yes.
you need the help, which is, I'd say, 90% of the battle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Eva Safar, what a great guest. This has been a great conversation. We appreciate you being here with us today. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you?
SafarTransformations.com or tabdenvernorth.com. And I'm always on LinkedIn.
You are always on LinkedIn as well. Ah, LinkedIn. We love it so. Thank you all for watching your customer success today or listening. So if you're listening on audio, don't forget there's a video on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, there is the audio available on all major platforms. That is all for today. I'll be back with more CX leaders, customer success leaders, and like I say, a few kind of tricks up my sleeve. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to marracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Marra, working hard for your customer and your success.